All right, Happy New Year, everybody. I'm going to call this meeting of Cleveland Heights City Council to order. It is January 6th at 7:40. Addie, would you call the roll?
Posh.
Here.
Petrus.
Here.
Russell.
Here.
Maddox.
Here.
Larson.
Here.
Kuda.
Here.
Cobb.
Here.
All right, the new order. Nobody's absent. Oath of office administered to Council Member Jim Posh. That happened on what date, Councilman Posh? A while ago?
Believe it.
The election?
Okay, so you're all sworn in and everything. That's wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations. Any amendments to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on to approval of the minutes. We don't have any.
I will have some for you next time. With
Okay.
vacation, I didn't have time.
We can hardly wait. Communications from the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. So first, I would like to start by saying that we as a community, once again, are mourning the passing of Ms. Edith Moore. Ms. Moore was shot and killed in our city. And I just wanted to express my condolences to her family, her entire family. No matter the circumstances, losing a loved one is tragic and difficult. And in these circumstances, it is unimaginably difficult. I want to assure everybody here and everybody listening that Cleveland Heights Police are doing what they do best. They are investigating this crime, and I can say with confidence that they've got quite a bit to go on, and we will be making progress on that. And I, for one, in this circumstance, am not just looking for the kind of connection and community that can help support the people of our city and this family in a time like this, but I am looking for real justice in this case. Had a little bit of communication with the county prosecutor. From what I know of this particular incident, I'm calling for maximum accountability. And I am looking forward to the day that the perpetrators are brought to justice for the people of Cleveland Heights and for Ms. Moore's family. I know that all of us are sick and damn tired of all of these guns in our community. This is exactly the kind of result that we see when we as a state and we as a country decide that there is nothing we can do or nothing that we should do. When these guns that are not made in Cleveland Heights, they're not made in Cleveland, flood into our communities. It's because we as a state and we as a country allow it. We make it easy. With every passing year, we make it easier. And every tragedy like this, a singular tragedy, or the mass shootings that occur on an almost regular basis in this country, each one of those incidents seems to do nothing to our collective sense of responsibility to take these tools of death out of the hands of the people who want to use them in this way. There's very little that a city like Cleveland Heights can do on its own. And so I want to thank our police for doing what we can do to get these guns off the streets. And I guess I just want to call for all of us here to recognize that each one of us is responsible for making something better happen on this topic. And that's whether it's an individual responsibility that you have to secure, if you own a firearm, to secure it in a way that prevents somebody from taking it and using it in this way. Or if it's the collective responsibility that we have to change our policies to make it more difficult for gun manufacturers, ultimately, to potentially profit from this market. So I want Ms. Moore's death to be a call to action for all of us. I spent some time with the Mayors Against Illegal Guns, first at the White House and then in Baltimore, talking with the mayor of Baltimore last year. And this scourge is of a different scale in Baltimore. It's different in the city of Cleveland, but it's the same problem. And as we see in the city of Cleveland and Cleveland Heights, this problem does not respect any borders, and we are not building any walls. So we have to work together to get something done here to influence our state, to influence our nation, to do better. Okay, I'm sorry to have to start this meeting that way, but I want to make it very clear that I know our police are on the job, but I think all of us need to have a zero tolerance policy for this. And some of us in this community tolerate a bit more than we should from relatives, from loved ones, from friends, when we know they're doing the wrong thing. And so I'm calling on each of you to find a way to help them do better, even if that means that maybe they have to sacrifice their freedom for the well-being of the rest of the community. And so what I'm asking people in this community to do is cooperate with our police to get these illegal guns off the street, out of the hands of all types of people who shouldn't be using them. So with that, I'd like to move on and just point out that on tonight's agenda with a request for consideration for adoption, we have an appointment to the city administrator position, Dan Horgan, a former mayor of Akron. And I just want to first express my apologies. Mr. Horgan attended the committee of the whole meeting earlier, but unfortunately had to leave before this meeting began. But he wanted me to convey his apologies on his behalf, and sort of I guess a preemptive thanks for council's consideration. And I do believe that he is worthy of this role, and so I would like to impress upon council that I think this will be a benefit to the city of Cleveland Heights. Beyond that, we also have on the agenda for first reading only an appointment to the position of finance director. Mr. Rodney G. Harrison comes to us with a wealth of experience, both in the nonprofit sector most recently, but also in the municipal and county finance sectors, so in the public sector in our area, both with the Board of Developmental Disabilities and with the airport system in Cleveland, which is a municipal function and a municipal agency. And so he has experience with the the type of financing that we do here. And I'll tell you, Mr. Hairston was one of the most prepared interviewees that I've ever seen. You know, as I've been interviewing people for positions, I am thoroughly impressed by this gentleman, and I look forward to council setting up a confirmation hearing and having a conversation with this candidate and hopefully to move forward before the month is out. And with that, I will yield back. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. We're going to move on to city administrator's report and skip that and go any departmental reports. Okay, seeing none. Report of the clerk of council.
I would like to notify council that I've received an application from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control for a new C1, C2 permit for Noble Amir LLC, doing business as Noble Gas USA. This matter has been referred to the mayor and chief of police.
Thank you, Addie. Next, we have public comment. You have 3 minutes. I take it some people signed up? Yeah. So the first are going to be on legislative items. Just say your name and the street you live on. And go ahead, Addie. Let's get going.
Melody Joy Hart.
Hi, Happy New Year to you all. I will be brief. I'm Melody Hart. I live at 2976 Monmouth Road. I am glad to see council begin to talk about a one-year budget and a one-year appropriation legislation at the committee of the whole. The administration has offered additional meetings and times, and I'm glad to see that you're thinking of taking them up on it. I think it's important that council meets together and talks with the mayor on what the list is of what is needed for you to pass it, so that he knows specifically what he has to bring to you, and to collaborate with him on capital as well. So please just put the work in and collaborate and get this done quickly. Thank you.
That's all I have for legislative.
All right.
James O'Hare.
Name's Jim O'Hare, and 2495 Kingston Road. I want to talk about the ADU. I guess it's a competition, the initiative. It is with great joy that I compliment you on this initiative. Something has been put forward in California, a lot of other areas. Local here, I think Cleveland Heights was one of the first, if not the first, to move this forward in this way. So I happened to be in City Hall the day that the posters were put up, and the finalists and the winners, and I knew this was going on. There was something about seeing them all together that was quite impressive. I've been thinking and talking and working with a number of people, including Cleveland Heights' probably most famous architect, Robert Madison, who built his own house here in 1960 and lived here for the majority of his adult and working life. I want to move forward rather quickly with this, and I'm interested in what the next steps are for this. Secondly, it was a while back in a meeting almost a year ago, I did ask for a copy of the most recent CAFR that the city has filed. I cannot find one on the website. I've made communications. I am interested in looking at one.
I'm sorry, a copy of what? I didn't.
The CAFR Comprehensive Annual Financial Report that I believe the city is required to file every year and to make public. Thank you. So if I could find that out, I would appreciate knowing that.
Great. Addie, can you make sure that happens? Thank you. Oh, yes, go ahead.
The CAFR won't be posted until the audit is done of 2023. The 2022 is the most recent, and it is on the website.
Okay, a search did not find it, and when I asked the then city administrator, he didn't know what it was, so.
Yeah. Go in under Finance Department, and they will list the CAFRs, the last three.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
The search tool is an adventure, no doubt about it. Go ahead.
James Williams.
Good evening, Uphill Heights. It's great to be back here. I wanted to first start off with saying about my community and my tribe. and how appreciative I am of Tri-C and Martis L. Chaplin and Candace Story and Joseph Fell, all attorneys. I have been going and doing coursework and paralegal work and mediation, so I can better be informed and better serve also. And I took today to walk around Cleveland and visit the Job and Family Services, because people were telling me how they were being put on hold for 3 hours and still not able to talk to anyone to get through. They were telling them that they had to call for 3 weeks before they can get any service, which people are going there because they need assistance with food. And as you know, as Lady Russell is trying to champion a living wage for people. And it just makes sense that, that's why people are there. And as I was walking down Superior, there were people, on the concrete, lying on the concrete. And I said to myself, he's able. And, I continue to say that because I know that he's able to do so many things that we place for granted in our lives, in our persons, in our minds, in our ability to overcome things. But he's able to do all things. And I just coming here and knowing that you all are working and discussing and continue to work for the people, the county, and you all have your own things you have privately you're doing and then publicly. But he's able. And I just thank God for that. And I was actually thinking about Counselor Yazanow with Yom Kippur and everything, but I know he's able. And thank you for that. Thank you.
James, it's good to have you back.
That's all we have.
All right, so we'll move on to legislation. The first legislation is for consideration for adoption.
I have resolution number 001-2025 on first reading, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the county of Cuyahoga to perform certain services to help maintain the city's sanitary and storm sewers, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Sarin.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 002-2025 on first reading, a resolution reappointing Greg Kluge as an alternate member of the Board of Zoning Appeals of the City of Cleveland Heights, Ohio, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Councilmember Cobb.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
I'm going to apologize if I mispronounce names on this next one. I have resolution number 003-2025 on first reading as amended. A resolution reappointing David Benson, Canterbury, Laura Black, Coventry, Susan Efroimson, Milliken, Jonathan Goldman, Taylor, Patty Substenley, Roxborough, Elizabeth Vanderleest, Oxford, Leslie Jones, Noble, Darlene White, Boulevard, Cindy Carroll, Pinkhurst, Anthony Poremski, Aloysius Snodgrass, Lisa Gilbert, Justin Alcorn, Sue Dean Dyke, and Angela Bennett as members of the Citizens Advisory Committee of the City of Cleveland Heights, Ohio, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Councilmember Cobb.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I just want to take this opportunity to thank all the citizens that volunteer on our committees. It's a very selfless thing to do, and we really appreciate you. And with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
I have Resolution number 104-2025 on first reading, a resolution reappointing Doreen Kelleher, Joaquin Martin, David Kraus, Kathleen Bengiat, Bonnie Paul, and Alfredia Lacey as members of the Commission on Aging of the City of Cleveland Heights, Ohio, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Councilmember Cobb.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 005-2024 on first reading, a resolution reappointing Lenora Cruz Price, Michael Payne, Peggy Spaeth, Peter Titus, Debbie Auerbach Brown, Alex Pesta, Thomas Hodkiss, Adam Dew, and John Talley as members of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board of the City of Cleveland Heights, Ohio, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Councilmember Cobb.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 006-2025, first reading, a resolution appointing Margaret Land as a member of the Landmark Commission of the City of Cleveland Heights, Ohio, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Councilmember Cobb.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 007-2025 on first reading, a resolution confirming the mayor's appointment of Daniel Horrigan as city administrator for the City of Cleveland Heights, Ohio, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Zarin.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Sure.
Just want to say how excited I am about this potential hire if we go ahead and do this appointment tonight. Having the opportunity to meet with him in the hearing, being able to meet with him again tonight and have the conversations about where he can fit in and help fill in some of the gaps and work collaboratively with the mayor. I'm just excited about 2025 and the experience that he's bringing in to many of the conversations that we're already kind of broadly having as a council. And so his openness to many of the ideas that we've already shared and discussed, the conversations again that I had with him today, I'm just really, really excited about the possibilities here. I think this is a great hire. He's going to be a gift to the city of Cleveland Heights, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's produced out of this partnership. I think the mayor did an exceptional job finding a candidate who would serve as a strong partner and who brings a great background to the city and who can help add to the work that we're already doing and help build that vision out and bring clarity to that. I'm also excited about the fact that he is somebody who understands the hard work of that our staff is doing day in and out, not just in City Hall, but our staff that's in the streets every day. And so this is something that he's bringing that passion for people as well. And so again, I'm just excited about this and looking forward to our council continuing to work with him, collaborate with him, get to know him more. But I think this is going to be a huge, huge year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Larson.
Thank you, President Kuda. Per the Charter of Cleveland Heights, the city administrator, quote, shall assist the mayor in the operation of the mayor's office and, subject to the mayor's supervision and control, be responsible for the preparation of the annual budget for presentation to council. Unquote. The budget preparation component of the charter's description of the city administrator's duties is extremely important right now. And I look forward to working, hopefully that Mr. Horrigan will attend the meetings that we need to have to reach our goal of a 2025 12-month budget. I support the mayor's nomination of Daniel Horrigan as city administrator. As vice chair of the Transportation and Mobility Committee, I will make sure that the chair of the Transportation and Mobility Committee sends him, actually it's the vice chair, sends him an invitation for the meeting that they have on the 29th at 7 p.m. and hopefully he can attend as vice chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Yes, Petrus.
Thank you, Mr. President. During Mr. Horrigan's confirmation hearing, he offered to talk individually with council members. I had a chance to speak with him over the holidays. I really appreciated the opportunity to learn more about his experience and what he would be able to bring to the city of Cleveland Heights and to also share my priorities for the city. And I, as I've said several times, am very appreciative of his willingness to serve our city. Coming from a city 4 times larger than ours and serving for 8 years, I think that we're really going to benefit from it. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Vice President Russell.
Yes. I would like to thank Mr. Horgan for coming. I actually dug very deep into the background of Mr. Horgan. From coming from Akron, where I have a lot of connections as being a labor leader there, not only did I want to know about his financial background, but I wanted to know about his labor skills and how he would actually get along with the employees here. And so I dug very deep and talked to the Akron employees as well as staff, and found out he was a fair and decent man. And so I welcome him aboard. Thank you.
Wonderful. Anybody else? I would just say, it's New Year's. It's time to be hopeful and look ahead. I had a nice talk with Mr. Horgan on the phone, as well as, the times he's been here. I know when Citizens for an Elected Mayor created this charter amendment to have an elected mayor, and it was a big decision to have a city administrator. Most cities, I only think of one in Cuyahoga County, they don't, it's kind of a luxury, but I think a necessity here. We're a bigger suburb. We envisioned that somebody would come in and be a day-to-day operations person, and that the mayor would be, kind of freed up to do the vision statement, vision for the city and work on the big economic development deals and so forth. And as Councilor Larson said, is very specific about helping with the budget. Certainly we need that as well. This man has skills. There's no question about it that he's qualified. And I'm very, very positive about the future with him. So with that, unless anybody else would like to speak, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Welcome aboard.
Next, I have ordinance number 008-2025 on first reading. An ordinance to repeal and replace certain subparagraphs of ordinance number 265-2024 relating to appropriations and other expenditures of the city of Cleveland Heights, Ohio for the period of January 1st, 2025 through March 31st, 2025. Repeal the prior version of ordinance number 265-2024 and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Councilmember Petrus.
So that I'm referring to the Finance Committee, and at the very least, they'll meet on the 14th, and they're actually looking for a date ahead of that.
We're voting.
Oh, I am so sorry. I am thinking of an ordinance that's coming up on first reading and not first reading only. This, I know what this is, and I'm sorry, do we have a motion for this?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? My bad, I was on the wrong ordinance. Any discussion? No discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Now we're on to first readings.
I have resolution number 009-2025 on first reading, a resolution approving the mayor's appointment of Rodney G. Hairston as Director of Finance commencing upon his confirmation and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Sarin.
All right, and we're setting up a hearing for that as we speak.
I have ordinance number 010-2025, first reading, an ordinance introducing amendments to various sections of Part 11 zoning code of the codified ordinances of the city of Cleveland Heights to update the city's regulations regarding enclosed private parking garage regulations, driveway widths, accessory parking, fences, frontages, and yards, sidewalks, shared use paths, landscaping requirements, nonconformities, yard requirements in residential districts, PDR district, zoning complaints, role of zoning administrator, inclusive language, and general changes to ensure consistency within the zoning code and transmitting the same to the Planning Commission, introduced by Mayor Sarin.
Okay, that I've referred to the Planning Commission.
Finally, I have ordinance number 011-2025 on first reading, an ordinance making appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Cleveland Heights, Ohio for the period of January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025, repealing and replacing ordinance number 265-2024, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Sarin.
And this is indeed the ordinance that I referred to the Finance Committee. All right, that's all the legislation. On to committee reports. Yes.
No committee report. Instead, I know this is the first meeting of the year, and this is when I kind of share what's happening in terms of committees and the work sessions that I'm having. And so I just wanted to let the public know what to look forward to in 2025. In January, I kind of lay out the fact that I use work sessions to really flesh out and pinpoint and have broad conversations about very specific topics. It allows me to bring in specialists and municipal leaders and government agencies from all over the county and in some cases other states to really talk about a topic and bring that talent, those skills and experiences that are happening in other cities. So 2025 is not going to be any different. And so I wanted to give you the topics for those that we're kind of focusing on in 2025 in terms of the work sessions that I'm placing this year. There will be one on financial literacy and a banking project. This is something that is a carryover for the last 2 years and just talking about how we can lift that up across the community. And we'll get into specifics in that as we get close to that work session. And then small and minority owned business support and programming. This is something that we've discussed from ownership of their buildings to looking into small business incubators. How can we lift them up, not just in our noble neighborhoods, but across the cities? And so I'm going to be bringing in some specialists from across the county who've done this work and across the state to help raise this up and give us some new and interesting ideas and funding sources for how we can do that. Our Youth Impact and Engagement Project, I'm going to be working with the mayor and the administration and talking about the existing programming and how we can continue to connect with our schools. Many of you who, like myself, have students in the school district and know that now we've got metal detectors at Heights. Things are getting very, very interesting there and starting to pour out into the community. And one of those things I know is that every solution that's going to impact this area is not going to come through legislation. It's going to come through collaboration, not just with the city and the school district, but outside agencies. So we're going to talk about what that looks like and how the mayor's already invested some funding in 2024 into that and ARPA funding and how we can support and lift that up. And so that's on the agenda. One other topic is the Community Center Program Enhancement Project. One of the things that I'm interested in as chair of Parks and Rec is really having a conversation about how to bring more young people into the community center. And that really impacts many of the things that are happening with our young people across the schools and out in our streets. And so if we're going to bring more young people into the community center, we're going to have a broader sense of the programming that we have so we can reach a more diverse group of young people across the city to draw them in. And so we're going to have those conversations about what's out there, what we can fund through other areas, what agencies we can support and bring in. And maybe there's some things that don't come through the city, but we might be able to partner with an outside agency to raise that up or lift that up here. Any programming before or after school programming as well. And so that's going to be a portion of that. And then the Neighborhood Transformation Initiative Project, this is something that came out of the city of Cleveland and I discussed with the mayor and his staff and some of our work sessions in planning and development over the last couple of years is what that looks like in terms of targeting key areas such as our Noble area, for instance, and what we can do from top to bottom. I'm excited about this work session because for the first time, we're going to have staff from both the city of Cleveland Heights working with us, as well as nonprofit agencies, but also the city of East Cleveland is sending representatives to talk so we can talk about what that entire area looks like and what collaboration and partnership is going to be from past Euclid Avenue all the way up. And so I'm looking to have that conversation, that corridor. And then the mayor has talked about the youth ambassadors and the park rangers and just picking that back up and talking about that impact and that engagement and how we can lift that up next year and what that'll do to enhance the safety in our parks and our community engagement within our park system. Just because we had to make some adjustments with our shipping containers doesn't mean that there isn't some other ideas. And I know the administration's already working on that. And so I want to make sure that we're connected. And then lastly, again, is that Noble Business Task Force is working with outside agencies to talk about how we can lift up the Noble Road businesses that may not require such a large investment from the city. This is something that is going to be necessary if we're going to lift up Noble Road. We've got to talk about the fact that those businesses are going to have to come together in a group and really have a voice and a place for us to invest that funding. And it's not going to be as easy as it has been in other areas. But in the conversations I've had, even over the Christmas holiday with these businesses, they are ready, they are hungry, but they're looking for that assistance. And I know these are conversations that we had as a council and administration, so now it's really time to lift that up and talk about what we can do in 2025 to make that possible. Because if we can bring that support in, we can help change the neighborhood through that. And that's why you see such a dramatic difference between that business district and the others. And so these are the work sessions that I got planned coming out throughout the year. We'll post those and talk about what that looks like. But again, it's just another targeted way where we can take one topic, pinpoint it, bring in specialists and representatives from those areas, and hopefully leave with some solutions and some ideas for how we can do that. And so, this is the part-time of year where I always let you know kind of what we're working on and what I'm looking at in terms of that. And so along with our regular committee meetings, you're going to see me hold those individual work sessions as I bring in those specialists so we can really talk about what type of impact we can have before the end of 2025 this year. And so that's all I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other committee reports? Councilman Petrus?
Thank you, Mr. President. The Housing and Building Committee is going to meet at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, the 14th. During this meeting, we will primarily talk about the housing-related recommendations from the Racial Justice Task Force. We've been talking about those for several months and are going to continue that discussion. We are also meeting at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, January 28th. And during that meeting, we're going to primarily talk about point of sale inspections. And we also, as a courtesy to a couple residents who approached us, have agreed that we will hold a public hearing related to the parking of commercial vehicles in residential areas. That is not to say that any particular council member is in support of making changes. This is a courtesy for residents so that we can hear what people's thoughts are on that. And that is all. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
President.
Councilman. Could I ask if is it possible to get the short-term rental legislation that I started like a year and a half ago on one of these two meetings?
Absolutely.
Good. Thank you. Councilor Larson.
Thank you. The next meeting of Council's Finance Committee is January 14th at 6 p.m. We will be discussing Councilor Maddox's list of mortgage and home improvement lending programs available to the majority African-American neighborhoods in Cleveland Heights. The committee will also be working on the 12-month budget for 2025. I've asked the administration for updates on the status of the October through December financial statements, results of the state 2023 financial audit, results of the council's independent, well, that would not be for the mayor, but we're also expecting to see an update on the council's independent CPA firm's review of 2024. From the mayor, results of the Archer compensation study, estimates for other probable compensation increases, and an update on progress towards the 2025 capital budget. The results of the council's independent CPA firm's review of 2024 will be included in the agenda for the 14th. I invite the mayor to attend along with any staff he deems appropriate. And then on the 27th of January, the Municipal Services and Environmental Sustainability Committee will meet at 6 p.m. Thank you, President Kuda.
You are busy. Don't look your way, right? Okay. Council Vice President.
Thank you, President Kuda. Yes, the Planning and Development Committee will be meeting January 16th at 10:30 a.m. This will be for the business community on Noble Road. We'll have a roundtable discussion around having the do's and don'ts around having a business association. June 22nd at 10:30 a.m., the Planning and Development Committee will have a committee meeting at 10:30 a.m. with developers. We will talk about zoning and the zoning difficulties or the zoning issues or advancements that we need to have in Cleveland Heights, or they suggest we have in Cleveland Heights for more developers to come to Cleveland Heights. Also, I'll be partnering with the Students Promise Program, who is in our Cleveland Heights schools, which everyone knows I am a school employee, school bus driver, substitute teacher, and I love the children. I'm also will be, and it's a way for children to have outside academics to learn more about the avenue of extending themselves to a higher and education as well as outside mentors. Also, I will be partnering with Myers. Am I saying that right? Myers. Help me back there. Wow. Manor, thank you. Myers Manors Transitional Living Facility for Women and Children. That will be coming very soon to Amati Church, and it will be helping to house children and women in Cleveland Heights who, most people don't know that there are a lot of children and women in Cleveland Heights who are homeless. And this will be a transitional way for them to be able to live somewhere while they transition to something in a better place. So I am very happy that Amonte Temple and Bob back there, who is spearheading this program. I will be initiating the pool lifeguards. I will try my best to push that legislation through with the help of our law director. I will also be pushing through and hoping that our council will work on getting Cleveland Heights a dog park, which so many residents are looking forward to. I will also be looking into legislation for a living wage for our employees here at the city. And that will be all for our committee reports for right now.
Thank you, Vice President Russell.
Thank you.
Councilman Posh?
The Public Safety Committee is working on a few things. One of them is well, there's actually two public hearings. One of them is regarding traffic safety. The other one is deer management. I am meeting with the police chief tomorrow regarding Council President's idea of putting a police presence on Noble, in the Noble neighborhood, a micro police station of sorts, trying to get a sense of what that might look like. If it's necessary, getting access to some crime statistics to look at that idea in a little bit more depth. The intent is to have a meeting at the end of the month during our regular scheduled time. I need to reach out to my peers to see if we can get something scheduled.
Very good. All right, on to old business. Old business, nothing new business. Okay. Oh, you know what? One of the things I wanted to do, and we don't have to go into it now, but I'd like to have a time when we could meet with people, because we don't really have an office here, but it would be nice. I know sometimes people just want to talk to council people one-on-one, and perhaps we could think about a way we could do that where we're not interacting with each other, but we are interacting with people who show up. And I would love to do that and figure out a way to do it in a way that, is manageable and maybe when we're already here. Yes, Councilman.
I don't know if it's helpful at all, but the system that I use is I have a calendar set up for invites so that I can plug.
Sorry, you have a what?
I have a calendar set up for invites for when I'm available to be here if anyone wants to connect with me here at City Hall. And so they can sign in and log in there, and then we just meet and kind of connect one-on-one here. The only other thing that I think is also helpful just for council members to think about is I found in doing that the first year, that it was actually more helpful in some cases to meet them wherever they were, because in some cases the topic was so specific, they kind of wanted to walk me through something or to see something. And so if you could also think about navigating and meeting them right there in their neighborhood or wherever that problem is, that's been extremely helpful. To give you an example, I met with a resident here at 10 a.m. about an issue they were having at 7 p.m. on their street. Being able to go back with them at 7 p.m., I could see the actual impact of the lighting issues that they were having. So if you schedule the time slots out, it's a little bit easier if you can work in a location later based on what that need might be, because for a lot of our residents, they really want us to see some things, and it's kind of hard for them to describe it or bring in photos, but to meet you out there is helpful. But at least to have that open calendar, you can always plug in a location later, but schedule out times or slots every week for when you're available and send those out.
So thank you for that. So I'm envisioning this a little differently than that. I mean, I don't know about the rest of you, but I do a lot of these kind of things that you're talking about, where I go to where people live and talk to them. What I thought would be nice for people is when they're here, if, they might want to talk to maybe more than one of us, and, they're already bothering to be here, it's a different thing. I mean, I think that is what you're talking about is necessary. I do probably more of that than I should, but I would like to, let's just, put this off and discuss it maybe at the next meeting. But a way we could do this where, because a lot of times people come up to the lectern and they talk for 3 minutes, but what they really want is sometimes is to interact with us and maybe interact with more than one of us. So maybe I'm thinking about something when we're all here, in addition to which, of course, what we ought to be doing, which is meeting people where they're at. So any other new business? Oh, is that Tanya? Give me a round of applause. Thank you. That sounded like a, large crowd for a second. Okay, no other new business, then we'll move on to council member comments. And we have one here, Councilman Maddox.
Just want to wish everyone a happy new year. And again, start out by saying condolences to the Moore family. Ms. Moore was an amazing, amazing woman. The Maddoxes we consider ourselves family to the Moores. Grew up with her daughters, my wife as well. Our kids grow up together now in the high school. It's a huge, amazing family. And so just grieving them, the entire Noble neighborhood. She's just it's one of those houses you could just go to and connect with people there. And so we are absolutely sending our prayers and condolences to the Moore family. And shout out to the Noble neighborhood for really supporting the family, lifting them up and stopping through. There hasn't been a day that I've driven by since this happened where folks haven't tried to pop in and really reach out and lift up the family in addition to the work that the city is doing. And I'm not surprised at all because that's what Noble is. And so I just thank God for everyone who has reached out, supported this family, lifted it up. And just please keep the Moores in your prayers as well. The only other thing I wanted to share is that the expectations for 2025 so that you know kind of what my focus is, and a couple of things here: continued partnerships with the administration on projects, programming, legislation, and community engagement. Enhanced community engagement as we reach out and hear from all of our residents. We want to continue to push that. Right now, I'm going through our apartment buildings and having those conversations with our seniors and trying to create organizations where we can so that they have that voice. And so you'll see that. New partnerships with community organizations and churches specifically. There are some great new programs and grants that are available now that organizations have across Cuyahoga County. We're going to try to bring those resources here to really talk about that. There are also some things that I know for a fact that we are missing opportunities on with our collaboration with the city of East Cleveland. There isn't much that they do not get approved for. And so talking about ways for how we can pinpoint and target that for our Caledonia Noble areas are going to be critical for me this year as I kind of look through and navigate those relationships. You guys know I'm a council person here, but a pastor there, and really bridging that gap is going to be important. And we know that East Cleveland has its own set of issues, but there are some great people in the administration and on that council that are saying, hey, I want to open this door. And so we're going to go ahead and see what we can do across both those cities. I know both mayors have been open and they're already having those great conversations. And so I'm hoping that our councils can really start to have conversations as well in collaboration, along with the libraries who are already doing great work and some of our school district employees. And then the last thing is just a continued focus on our diversity, equity, and inclusion, and making sure that all voices are represented and seen across the city, from our boards and commissions to the work that we do and the feedback that we get. That will continue to be critical to make sure that those marginalized voices are heard. So 2025 is going to be a big year, again, for engagement and really pressing in on some of these long-term, large goals. And so my goal is to continue to strengthen the collaboration with the administration so we can get some of this done. So you're going to see a lot of stuff pop up. So again, Happy New Year and condolences to the Moore family. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Council Vice President.
Yes, I also want to give my condolences to the Moore family. Miss Edie, 74 years old. I knew her very well as her children. Tragic, very tragic incident that happened when I got that call at 3 a.m. the morning from her daughter, Tiffany, telling me what had happened. And I was basically thrown off my feet. And we got to do better. We have to do better as far as our young children and our young kids putting the guns away. We need to put the guns away. She was a lovely lady. Her husband had just died a couple years ago, and she took on to actually trying to raise her grandchildren. So my condolences go out to her family. But on a happier note, I want to give thanks, so much thanks, to Sherrod Brown, to Congresswoman Shontel Brown, to Congresswoman Joyce Beatty. And if you all have been following the legislation that just passed, is the Social Security offset windfall. And Cleveland Heights, thank all of my council members here for supporting me, because we passed that legislation here in Cleveland Heights to support the Social Security offset windfall. I have been fighting along with other people around this country for 40 years. Y'all hear me? 40 years I have been fighting for that legislation. I mean, going door to door, getting people to sign it, helping people to understand it. For 40 years, I have been knocking on that door. Congresswoman Joyce Beatty and Shontel Brown knocked it out of the park at the House. We had 327 votes to passage, 75 no votes. This is a bipartisan bill, Democrats and Republicans. Sherrod Brown picked it up in the Senate and knocked it out of the park. We had 76 passage to 20. I am so happy and so elated about this bill passing. And I want Patrick to know, who works here, that is what you do for public employees. You don't give them a meal, you give them a lifeline to live by. This will help so many public employees, so many retirees come out of poverty because they were not allowed to get the Social Security they worked and put into. So I want to say thank you so much, Sherrod Brown, and to our Congress people, and even to our Republicans who understood and stood by working families. And President Biden, thank you so very much for passing and signing this bill on Sunday at 4:00 p.m. I was actually was sent an invitation by President Biden to be there to watch the signing of that bill. So I am so elated. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Any other council comments? I got no's. All right. So, Council President report. So, I'm not much for New Year's resolutions, but I do have a New Year's aspiration. I want to have more meetings like this and less meetings like the one we had on December 19th. I was looking at Robert's rules. It says here, this is 43.21. Refrain from attacking a member's motives. Under no circumstances should a person be attacked or question the motives of another. Using words like stupid, ignorant, liar should not be used in a debate directed at a member. We're capable of doing exactly what we did tonight. We should do this all the time. And that's my aspiration for 2025. We're going to not adjourn the meeting, but recess to go back to Committee of the Whole. Is that correct? I have to ask the law director.
Mr. President, if I understood earlier, you're adjourning your council meeting, but you're resuming your recessed Committee of the Whole meeting.
Okay, so that's what I'll do. I'll adjourn this meeting and I'll recess to, we'll all recess to the Committee of the Whole. Thank you so much for coming.